One of the reasons I like to look back at Aesop's fables is because nothing quite captures the distilled wisdom of our ancestors down into one tight, concise story. And by using animals in the place of people, it transcends time and space, in particular individuals. And of course, the most famous of all of Aesop's fables is The Boy Who Cried Wolf, that everybody is familiar with. You have the boy, the shepherd boy, put on watch, and he's watching for wolves, and he gets bored, and so he says, "Wolf, wolf." And the whole town comes running, and there's nothing there, and the boy laughs. And then the town makes a mistake. They put the boy back on watch duty. And he stands there, and he's bored, and a couple hours later, he cries, "Wolf, wolf," and the whole town comes running, and they look, and there's no wolves. And so then they put the same boy back on watch duty again. The problem is his credibility by this time is shot, and he cries "wolf, wolf" a third time, and nobody shows up. And of course, this is the time that there were actually wolves. And when we look in history, we look at figures like Joseph McCarthy and the Red Scare. And even though, as we've learned more and more, we find out he was right. There was communists infiltrating Hollywood and the government. But he was so overzealous and so hysterical that his name has essentially become a dirty word in politics. And you can see now, it has opened the gate and it's let the wolves in. By crying wolf, by raising this hysteria, by not methodically dealing with issues, by abusing your power. Once the pendulum swings back, nobody takes this stuff seriously, and it allows the wolves in. So I want to look at a couple of articles here. FBI-CIA dispute erupts over whether Comey or Brennan pushed the Steele dossier. So now these two agencies are arguing amongst themselves. A dispute has erupted over whether former FBI Director James Comey or his CIA counterpart, John Brennan, promoted the unverified Steele dossier as the Obama-era intelligence community targeted the Trump campaign. According to Fox News, an email chain exists which indicates Comey told Bureau subordinates that Brennan insisted on the dossier's inclusion in the Intelligence Community Assessment, or ICA, on Russian interference. So, Comey blames Brennan, who appears to be asleep. Also interesting is the dossier was referred to as Crown material in the emails, a possible reference to the fact that Steele is a former British spy. In a statement to Fox, however, a former CIA official put the blame squarely on Comey. Former Director Brennan, along with former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, are the ones who opposed James Comey's recommendation that the Steele dossier be included in the intelligence report, said the official. They opposed this because the dossier was in no way used to develop the ICA, Intelligence Community Assessment. The official continued. The intelligence analysts didn't include it when they were doing their work because it wasn't corroborated intelligence. Therefore, it wasn't used and it wasn't included. On Sunday, Senator Lindsey Graham told Fox News that he was pushing to declassify documents which would expose the FBI's dismal efforts to verify the claims within the dossier. There's a document that's classified that I'm going to try to get unclassified that takes the dossier all the pages of it, and it has verification to one side, said Graham. There really is no verification other than media reports that were generated by reporters that received the dossier. Graham noted a report by the Hill's John Solomon that the FBI was specifically told that Steele was keen to leak his salacious dossier for the purpose of influencing the 2016 U.S. election. The agency also knew that the document's claims were either unverified or disproven, yet it was used anyway against Trump and his campaign. Moving on, you can see here, top lawyer for Obama-era FBI is nervous about the DOJ Inspector General investigation. James Baker, a career government attorney who wound up as the FBI's top lawyer in 2014, says he's nervous about DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz's internal investigation into FBI DOJ conduct surrounding the 2016 U.S. election. Sitting down at the Brookings Institute, Baker made clear that he wanted to speak as openly as I can about the origins of the FBI investigation into Donald Trump to reassure the American people that it was done for lawful, legitimate reasons and was apolitical. Of course, we can see right here, they knew it was unverified at the very least, or disproven at the worst. So for those keeping track, we've gone from there was no spying to the FBI used an informant on the Trump campaign, just don't call him a spy, to okay, there were multiple informants, but just let's not call them spies. And so while Obama-era officials have scrambled to perform damage control, Attorney General William Barr, James Clapper, and the CIA's former chief of counterintelligence have concluded that the Obama administration absolutely spied on Donald Trump and his campaign. You know, maybe they just wanted to know what he was talking about. Maybe, they wondered, this guy must know all the best golf courses out there. Or maybe it was because it was a coup. Barr, meanwhile, has launched a wide-ranging investigation into FBI conduct during the 2016 election, making him public enemy number one to the left. Barr currently sits in contempt of the House Judiciary Committee after refusing to turn over an unredacted version of the Mueller report, despite the fact not one Democrat has viewed the 98.5% redacted versions the DOJ made available to members of Congress. So they're splitting a hair here for headline purposes, and of course the media backs up the Democrat narrative. We all know that. After Barr's spying bombshell, Mr. Barr, former FBI Director James Comey said he had no idea what the heck he, Barr, is talking about. Well, last week, Comey said he thinks Barr has acted less than honorable and has lost most of his reputation. Comey realized he wasn't looking at Barr on the television, but actually his bathroom mirror. And what appears to be the latest attempt to get ahead of the narrative, James Baker, the Obama-Comey FBI's top lawyer, sat down with Benjamin Witz at Brookings to defend the agency's comment. Baker is nervous. Asked by Witz, so how nervous are you about the IG? Baker responded that he's always nervous about the IG and that they're coming in after the fact to look at what we did. Well, isn't that how you investigate anything? You investigate a crime. That's what an investigation is. They're coming in after the fact. Yes, that's an investigation. That's what you do. Baker added that during the chaotic 2016 election, the FBI was trying to do it in real time. So I guess this is his list of excuses. It was just happening too fast. We had to spy on the guy. Let's see, they were trying to do it in real time and having the pressure to deal with these threats as they were coming, while dealing with the backdrop of alleged Russian hacking of Democratic emails. Now, nowhere did this Baker mention a Joseph Mifsud, a Maltese professor and self-professed member of the Clinton Foundation, who is the genesis of the Russian dirt rumor planted with Papadopoulos several weeks after returning from a trip to Moscow. While the Mueller report paints Mifsud as a Russian agent, okay, so Mueller calls this guy a Russian agent, evidence points to him being in league with Western intelligence, which raises the notion of entrapment if Papadopoulos was set up by a Clinton ally. It's a trap. Robert Mueller omits any mention of a wide range of contacts Mifsud had with Western political institutions and individuals in his report on Russian interference in the 2016 election. Surprise. No wonder Baker is feeling a bit on edge. When asked how confident he is that the FBI opened up the Trump investigation for legitimate reasons and not a coup, Baker maintained that everything was on the up and up, and that there was, quote, no way in hell he would have allowed a coup attempt against Trump. As for the FISA surveillance on the Trump campaign, Baker defended the FBI's use of the infamous Steele dossier in its application, saying that after personally reviewing the FISA applications, he was comfortable with them and confident that the process remained lawful. Of course, in recent days, we've learned that the State Department and the FBI absolutely knew that the Steele dossier was a political document of dubious legitimacy, and that its author, UK spy Christopher Steele, was working for Clinton and DNC opposition research firm Fusion GPS to produce the document. Still, Baker defended the agency's handling of Steele, saying, "We're not stupid. The FBI, we're not stupid." And I would agree with that. The FBI is absolutely not stupid. In fact, what appears to have happened is something far more nefarious. And it goes back to why you have to avoid hysteria, why you have to focus on what is true and what is not true, and due process and the rule of law, and not give in to hysteria. Because McCarthy opened the door for the wolves. Both Comey and Brennan voted communist while the Cold War was raging. The heads of Obama's FBI and CIA both voted communist during the Cold War, yet were somehow able to move up the ranks within the same U.S. intelligence community that had spent decades fighting that very ideology. Were they somehow able to move up the ranks, or is this specifically why they were chosen to move up the ranks? Now we have Comey, Brennan, and Clapper here. Journalist Paul Sperry noted on Wednesday that former FBI Director James Comey admitted in a 2003 interview to having voted communist before casting his ballot for Jimmy Carter in 1980. In college, I was left of center, Comey told New York Magazine, and through a gradual process, I found myself more comfortable with a lot of the ideas and approaches the Republicans were using. He voted for Carter in 80. In 84, I voted for Reagan. I'd moved from communist to whatever I am now. I'm not even sure how to characterize it. I'm not even sure how to characterize myself politically. Maybe at some point I'll have to figure it out. It appears you love power, if I had to characterize it, at any cost. Of note, Comey's wife and 4 daughters were all giant Hillary Clinton supporters who wanted her to win, quote, really badly. Former CIA Director John Brennan, meanwhile, admitted in 2016 to voting communist in the 1970s. When asked at the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's annual conference whether past activism would create a barrier for diverse candidates who want to enter the intelligence community, Brennan said that he was forced to admit to voting for communist Gus Hall for president in 1976. Brennan says, I froze because I was getting so close to coming into the CIA and said, okay, here's the choice, John. You can deny that, and the machine is probably going to go, wacko. Or I can acknowledge it and see what happens. Brennan, who was sworn in as CIA director on a draft of the U.S. Constitution, notably without the Bill of Rights, and instead of a Bible, said that while he had voted communist, he wasn't an official member of the Communist Party. That's a nice way of splitting the hairs there, and was relieved that he had been accepted into the CIA. I said, I'm not a member of the Communist Party. So the polygrapher looked at me and said, okay. And when I was finished with the polygraph, and I left and said, well, I'm screwed. So John Brennan didn't think he was even going to get into the CIA because he was honest about his past where he supported communism. So, if back in 1980 John Brennan was allowed to say, I voted for the Communist Party with Gus Hall, and still got through, did he really just get through? Or ask yourself, perhaps this is why he was chosen. Rest assured, your rights and your expressions and your freedom of speech as Americans is something that's not going to be disqualifying of you as you pursue a career in government, the former CIA director concluded. Of course, try being a conservative on social media. You might have a very different experience. So 2 of President Obama's spy chiefs voted communist, while Obama was influenced by the likes of radicals Bill Ayers, Saul Alinsky, and his pastor, Jeremiah Goddamn America Wright. And weeks before he died of a sudden, mysterious heart attack, journalist Andrew Breitbart claimed to have videos that would expose Obama as a communist radical. None of the above sounds very America First. Here's a picture of Obama holding a book, The Post-American World by Fareed Zakaria. You have to ask yourself, there's an awful lot of communists or alleged communists getting through into government for a ideology which has made infiltration one of its primary goals. Treason. Barr finds government power was used to spy on American citizens. So, in his first pair of interviews since being sworn in, Attorney General Barr told Fox News and the Wall Street Journal that he was pursuing the investigation into the origins of the Trump-Russia probe, an investigation he has tasked John Durham, the U.S. Attorney from Connecticut, with leading, because Americans need to know whether the government put a thumb on the scale to try to undermine President Trump both during the campaign and during the first 2 years of his term. Separately, he told the Wall Street Journal that government power was used to spy on American citizens. I can't imagine any world where we wouldn't take a look and make sure that that was done properly, he said. Barr has doubled down on using the term spying, which has angered Democrats after first using it during the Senate committee testimony from April 10th, where he uttered the now infamous phrase, "I think spying did occur." And appearing to respond to Barr's interviews, President Trump has declared that his campaign was conclusively spied on. In this tweet by Donald J. Trump, "My campaign for president was conclusively spied on. Nothing like this has ever happened in American politics. A really bad situation. Treason means long jail sentences, and this was treason." And of course, treason means worse than just jail sentences. So what you have here, this is the deep state. This is the unaccountable nexus of power that has built up here since the 70s and probably earlier. Communist sympathizers like termites have worked their ways into influential positions. See Hollywood, see the media, see academia, and apparently the FBI and the CIA. And when it came time for deciding who was allowed to come in, who got the promotions, who moved to the top, were they promoting on merit, or were they promoting on ideology? And of course, I always like to take a historical look at things. Rome had their equivalent of the deep state. It was called the Praetorian Guard. They were an elite unit of Imperial Roman army members who served as the personal bodyguards to the Roman emperors. So these guys had the weapons, and they were allowed to be near the emperor. With the Republic's transition into the Roman Empire, however, the first Emperor Augustus founded the Guard as his personal security detail. Although they continued to serve in this capacity for roughly 3 centuries, the Guard became notable for its intrigue and interference in Roman politics, to the point of overthrowing emperors and proclaiming their successors. In 312, the Guard was disbanded by Constantine the Great. Because one of the things you saw with the Praetorian Guard is they would assassinate one emperor and prop up another. And of course, what's that emperor going to do when everyone around him has all of the knives at his back? Guess who gets a raise? The Praetorian Guard. Guess who is the puppet masters behind the seat of power? It's the Praetorian Guard. And it appears when you have shadowy institutions with no accountability to the voter, the temptation for ideologies like communism to infiltrate and promote their own members up is irresistible. And as the Romans concluded, the only solution to this sort of problem, to curb personal ambition or ideological dedication, was to dissolve the entity altogether.